Okay, our next presenter will tell us why your brand needs virtual reality now. He is Anil Taneja, VP of Client Development for InContext Solutions. Anil, please take it away.
Thank you. So as mentioned, my name is Anil Taneja. I'm with InContext Solutions. I run a lot of our large accounts, and I'm here to talk about why we think virtual reality is more of a need to have in today's economy with our clients, and how it's finally ready for market. So I know there will likely be some questions, and I think we'll take that at the end of the presentation. So this is meant to be a bit inflammatory, but we keep hearing in the news and media that retail is dead. There's a lot of doom and gloom out there that we see. The prevailing narrative overall is just general decline. So as you'll see on this infographic, there's been a number of closings in early 2017, a lot of brands that many of us on the call probably grew up with, thinking these were foundational companies that would outlive us, but we've seen significant changes in the market where a lot of these brands are no longer relevant. They're shifting their model completely. And obviously, the big $400 billion gorilla in the room is Amazon, and we've seen them just sort of shake up the industry time and time again. The infographic on the right is interesting because if you look at the combined market cap of a lot of these large retail companies, they are now smaller than Amazon as a whole. That's really interesting, and we don't see that necessarily changing in the near future, but it's definitely something that everyone is talking about. But it's not all doom and gloom, and this is also my opportunity to share a really cute kid, which is my kid. So he ran some numbers, and he's saying it's not all doom and gloom in store, but it's just different. We're seeing changes. We've actually just seen a decline in retail vacancy, and that's expected to continue out through 2018. And when it comes down to it, shoppers still like to shop in stores. So even in 2025, which seems like a lifetime away, 85% of sales are still expected to be from brick and mortar. The vast majority of people still enjoy shopping in stores. They want to touch and try before they buy, and they still make most of their buying decisions in stores. And the last bullet on there is that even those who are heavy online shoppers, which is 60%, rarely buy groceries online. So there are some categories that we just think are going to be a little more insulated than others. But there are changes afoot. We've seen a lot of M&A activity. It started off, on the retailer product side to see a number of retailer consolidation. Some interesting ones like Kroger and Roundy's, or the Mariano's brand if you're in Chicago. Walgreens and the Boots Alliance, Dollar Tree, Family Dollar, so a lot of consolidation. And same on the product side, so Tyson, Hillshire, Kraft Heinz, Smucker's, Big Heart. But now we're starting to see this third wave of convergence with digital and retail, or digital and physical. So Walmart's been hyperactive, buying Bonobos, which is a large e-commerce apparel player. They purchased Jet.com to augment their e-commerce capability earlier in the year, and also made a couple more tailored or smaller bets on companies like Moose Jaw. And the one that's obviously we've heard a lot about recently is Amazon and Whole Foods, which is a $14 billion acquisition just a few months ago. The changes have happened over time as well. We've seen the retail model shift from the early 1900s, which likely predates most people on the call, which was heavily in the service model, to what we probably think of as retail in the current day, which is more fulfillment-based. So how can we fit as many SKUs on aisles in our store? How can we make it as big as possible and just try to meet every single need that a shopper may have, to what we think is a more experiential design that retailers are shifting towards. This is an Apple illustration, but they're sort of the tip of the iceberg, and we're seeing a lot more shift towards experiences, and that's in line with what shoppers are demanding. We've also seen a shift in speed to market that is kind of expected now. So if you look at the Amazon Whole Foods acquisition, this historically would have been hot off the presses still, given that was only 2 months ago, and they would probably still be figuring out what exact changes to make with the acquisition, but they already started making changes on day one. So they slashed prices by up to 40% on a number of key staples, The example that got highlighted quite often, I believe, was avocados. That dropped from $1.60 to closer to $1 to more in line with traditional grocery stores. Kind of moving away from that whole paycheck moniker that Whole Foods gets. Within the next week, they put a number of Whole Foods 365 brands on Amazon Prime. They saw corresponding lifts in foot store traffic by 25%. And just within 6 weeks later, we saw them making more changes. They tested with some of the in-store changes. They iterated it and they learned. And they raised some prices back up, but they still saw an increase in store foot traffic by 4 to 5%, which seems to be more of a steady state. So that's all within a span of 6 weeks, which, if I told you 2 years ago, that could have been a year long in a traditional time frame. And we're seeing some of the incumbent brands make some pretty big shifts as well to the more experiences. So Starbucks recently announced they're closing their online store, and they're going to focus more on in-store experiences. So the big white building you see on the right, if you are familiar with Chicago, is going to be a four-story concept that they're going to take over the Crate and Barrel space, I believe, and reimagine it as a Starbucks Reserve roastery concept. Companies like Tide have opened up dry cleaners throughout the country so consumers can interact with their brand in a more full-service execution. Nordstrom is launching this concept, Nordstrom Local, which is going to carry zero inventory but still allows consumers to interact with the brand. They're going to offer services like manicures in store. And then finally, Nespresso, which is probably the oldest school of these experiential brands on this page. They have a number of Nespresso stores throughout the country and the world where shoppers can interact with the brand, sample, and then also purchase the consumable pods in store. So there are changes, but brace yourself. We think more change is needed. You're not a Game of Thrones fans, you probably don't know who this is, and you're wondering why he's holding a sword. If you are a Game of Thrones fans, can't wait for the next season. So we do expect more changes. And what do we mean by that? So if we look at the current state, as far as how companies go to market, we think of it as highly linear. It's pretty slow, it's costly, and it's arguably inefficient. So starting with an idea, very few ideas are developed just given the time and cost to test them. They then move to prototyping, which again is a physical build that's very expensive and time consuming. And then they can move to more of an in-store test or qualitative predictive model type setup. The decision is then made of whether or not to take that idea to their retail partners and develop a sales plan and ultimately an in-store execution. And why is this problematic? As we mentioned, it's expensive and time consuming. So taking concepts from design to decision is anywhere from 9 to 18 months in time. To set up a mock store is about a $1.5 million initial setup per hour, as well as independent research, and can be $500,000 in annual staffing, maintenance, and inventory. Remodeling a store, when you include decor, fixtures, other merchandising, etc., is a very costly multi-million-dollar endeavor, as well as bringing new products to market. When you think about the R&D and the marketing that goes into supporting that, you're talking multi-millions of dollars, and the fact of the matter is most of those products don't deliver a positive ROI. And then you move to the execution side. So when you talk about merchandising, the amount of money that's spent on trade promotions is massive. The number I've heard is $300 billion in the market, and 2/3 of them fail to deliver any positive ROI. We train shoppers to expect deals. Promotions are often too deep in discount and too long in time periods. There's promotion fatigue, and after a while, it no longer delivers the uplift that we want to see when we give a promotion. When you look at shelf resets, $20,000 to $50,000 are spent per store on a reset, including labor, and 85% of that do not deliver a category lift. So as we think about what we think the future of this process should look like, we envision a more iterative approach. So just to help you see this a little more clear, the green arrow right now is showing you the old. What we are proposing, or what we're seeing our clients try to move towards, is this more best-in-class model, which is iterative. So we start with an idea. We then can take multiple ideas, since we're developing it in virtual reality as opposed to physical builds. Now we can prototype, test, assess, and iterate. So we're bringing data to the decision-making process much earlier in the process. We're weeding out bad ideas. We're identifying ideas that have the potential to deliver uplift. And then we can make the decision to go or no go. And since we're leveraging virtual reality, in addition to the data that we're bringing, we're also doing this in a cheaper, faster way. We are also proposing, and we've seen our clients move towards this, to more of a joint business plan and collaborative engagement with their retail partners. And again, since we're using virtual, we have the ability to further test, refine, and iterate these concepts in a cheaper and faster manner. And then we can move to the activation phase. So we're eliminating risk, and we're eliminating time and wasted dollars by using virtual reality. What does this actually mean? Or what does this actually look like? So I'm going to play you a video, and we don't have to watch all of it, but the collaboration can happen within the virtual space. And what we're showing you right now is a live demonstration, or sorry, a pre-recorded live demonstration of the technology, which is two people working thousands of miles apart, engaging and interacting with a planogram. They're overlaying data and analytics so they can make decisions real time about product placement, about where shoppers might focus their attention on, all in the virtual environment using the head-mounted devices. So we've seen our clients use this with their retail partners who are maybe in remote locations so where travel doesn't make sense, or they can have more frequent touch points by leveraging virtual reality and not having to take up a whole day for travel. So another video for you will demonstrate what we can do in virtual reality. So you're looking at a Walgreens store, and we'll do a full store walkthrough. And you'll see it's highly immersive, it's highly realistic. This is a full 2-scale modeled store, and we're going to do some pretty big changes all within a matter of seconds using virtual reality, as you'll see. So boom, using our software, we've been able to reimagine the store section, and we'll do a side-by-side comparison in the video so you can see the drastic impact it has. If you were to think about the way this would work in a current state, using a physical build, if we did a walkthrough with the retail partner in a mock store and they didn't like one shelf placement, we'd have to redo the whole store. With virtual reality, we can make changes live. We can quickly delete fixtures. We can change shelf heights. We can do a full store reimagination all within a matter of minutes or hours, as opposed to days and thousands of dollars wasted. So what does this all mean? It means we're more ROI focused, leveraging virtual reality. On the left, you'll see a number of metrics like improvements in operating margin and shelf stock rates. We'll see reductions in cost of inventory hold, logistic costs, manufacturing, and G&A. But in the end, it's all about ROI. We're enabling data-driven decision-making in a matter of weeks instead of months and years. We're improving the customer experience and shopper loyalty by creating more relevant and customized in-store solutions. And then we're able to generate new enthusiasm for products by tailoring them to meet shopper demands, leveraging our virtual reality testing and visualizations. So it's faster, it's better data, it's a better experience, all while reducing costs. And we have a few case studies that demonstrate how our clients have been able to do this. So our client was able to leverage our virtual reality testing and visualization to deliver a positive ROI story. So they were most concerned with penetration and whether or not the changes they wanted to make to shelf layouts would deliver that penetration. A traditional test or evaluation of this size would normally cost $100,000 to $150,000 and take months, many months to complete. By leveraging our virtual reality testing, they were able to get quantitative, attitudinal, as well as sales data in a matter of 2 weeks for $15,000. So this is a real savings of over $100,000 while being able to make the case in a data-driven manner. We've also seen our clients use this for things like displays. In this example, our client had 3 levels of execution for a display build that they wanted to test. So good, better, best. The cost difference between the best and the good was $40 per display. Using the indicator or using our research platform, they're able to assess sales impact, likability, and noticeability and make the decision that the good or the cheapest concept delivered the same value to them as the best concept would. At $40 a store, over 25,000 stores, this saved them, by their estimate, which was conservative because it was mostly just a cost of goods metric, $1 million on a $15,000 investment. And finally, using our virtual visualizations, one of our manufacturing clients was able to create highly customized and tailored visual executions for their retail partners. So rather than doing a physical build for each of their 10 retailers, which would have cost north of $250,000, we were able to develop customized, catered content in virtual reality, showing all of these shelf executions within the context of the retail partner stores in virtual reality for only $50,000. So that's a real savings of $200,000. And again, we're talking ROI. So this is a real example with real numbers. Conservatively, with the combination of risk mitigation, identifying good, high-performing concepts, as well as cost savings versus incumbent methodologies, we conservatively estimate ROI to be anywhere from 5 to 10x on a $1 investment. This is an example from one of my clients, which is closer to $6.50. For every $1 invested, they saved $6.50. The key takeaways: retail is changing. We all know that. We don't see that stopping in the next 5 to 10 years. Our shoppers are also changing. They're different now, and they require more engaging and customized solutions and experiences. Speed to market is also going to continue to change and get a lot faster. And this all should be a spark or a signal that retailers need to change the way they go to market along with the manufacturing client. But we think virtual reality can help be that change agent. So we can enable rapid, data-driven decision-making with an easy ROI. It reduces cost, it reduces time, and it mitigates risk by bringing data early and often throughout the process.
Okay, Anil, we have got some questions here that have come in. Number one, what is the upfront cost of virtual reality?
Sure. So virtual reality is relatively cheap. So we have clients that can get in, anywhere from $20,000, depending on the scale of the solution. It could be a pretty big investment, but we're able to tailor the solution and the upfront cost to fit the budget and needs of our clients. So it's not like a one-size-fits-all.
Okay. Another one here, and these are all questions about people, I guess, who are interested. What is the process for getting started using virtual reality solutions?
Sure. So the process, depending on what specifically you need to do, we're set up in a way that we have people like myself, as well as a number of other customer success type folks that help get up and running. We would do an assessment of your content needs, content meaning your store builds, your products that you need to test, and then we would help you develop an execution plan around that so we could scope the right services and software needed to fit your needs.
Okay, another question. What are the downsides and caveats to VR testing?
Sure. Zero downsides or caveats. I'm just kidding. So I don't know if these are downsides, but I will say that it requires a change in mindset for people who are ultimate consumers of the research methodology. So we've done a number of internal as well as external validations around the virtual testing, and it validates very strongly with in-store tests. That being said, it does require a change in mindset, so it requires a little more selling probably up front, but once, particularly with people who've been in the industry for a long time, once they get it, it's a pretty easy sell-in and they recognize the value of the data. We're bringing in thousands of respondents to our virtual testing, whereas most other methodologies, you're talking about dozens or hundreds. So we're bringing a quantitative read, but it is a virtual test, so it requires a little more education internally and externally to get that buy-in.
Okay, another question, how do you measure ROI?
We measure ROI. What I showed was just an example that we've done with some clients, but usually it's a joint development with our clients, so we're all on the same page with the definition and we're comfortable with the metric. It's usually some combination of risk mitigated, so how many concepts were we able to identify and what impact could that have on the category if we were to execute a bad concept. It's upside potential, so what concepts can we take to market that would deliver a positive ROI, as well as what cost savings can we identify versus alternative methodologies. So using a virtual test, if it was $20,000 and a traditional methodology is $100,000 and $80,000 savings, we would capture that in some function with an ROI. We also measure time savings versus incumbent methodologies. We can dollarize that, but we often don't because we like to keep our ROI methodology hyper-conservative in order to avoid any questions about validity.
Okay, another question. How much faster is a study in VR versus a traditional research study?
Sure. And that answer could vary a lot depending on the setup, but we're able to deliver results in as little as 2 weeks. I would say, in my experience, most market research has a much longer lead time in order to deliver real data. Conservatively, I think you're looking at 2 weeks versus 2 months on the low end of both methodologies.
Okay, excellent. And the last question is from me. I was interested in your Starbucks store slide in Chicago. Is that open yet, or when will it be open? And number 2, the Tide dry cleaning store, where is that located?
Sure, and that's 2 questions,
it is 2.
but I'll allow it. So the Starbucks store is not open. They announced that earlier in the year. The Roastery or Reserve concept, I believe, is in market in some markets, probably closer to Seattle. The one that we showed in Chicago will be one of the flagships. I think there's going to be one in China as well. So it's giving people a reason to stay in the store longer and interact with the brand. As I mentioned, they're closing their e-commerce front to try to drive people to the store and really engage with the brand in store. Your question around the Tide one is interesting because that's actually just one of their executions around how they're bringing the brand to market. So they have, I believe it's about 30 or 40 Tide dry cleaner locations throughout the country. There's also an arm of Tide called Tide to Go or Tide Spin, which is in Chicago at the very least, which is more of a dry clean delivery service. So they're really taking their brand into more of the service area beyond just the product.
Okay, excellent. Retail lives. Excellent. Good job, Anil. A very informative and interesting presentation. Thank you. And those of you who want more information can reach out to Anil. His email is on the screen right now. And it generated certainly a lot of questions, which is always very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.